Have you ever wondered how big airlines serve all those smaller cities which are too small for their mainline jets? Well, that's the job of the regional airlines. And in the case of United, it was done under the banner of United Express. Hi, everyone. Today we are going to look at the regional arm of United Airlines. From its launch in 1985 up until its transition in 1996. Make sure you support the channel and let us get into it. The year is 1985, and airline deregulation has been in full effect for 5 years. Since then, new airlines have popped up across the country, offering a variety of different services. Weber! United Airlines found itself in a position where they were unable to profitably serve many smaller markets due to traffic levels being too low to support a jet operation and the lack of smaller aircraft suitable for these routes. But this soon changed with the introduction of the British Aerospace 146 and the Bombardier CRJ, seeing an opportunity to grow while also improving service to smaller markets. United decided to launch a regional brand called United Express. The idea was for United Express to feed smaller cities into United's mainline hubs, such as Denver, Chicago, Washington, Newark, and Los Angeles, allowing them to capture more of the business travelers flying between these larger and smaller markets. At the time, United had no formal regional partners. So, United Express would serve as a way to bring regional travel under the United umbrella. This franchise-style model would be quite similar to the one we know today, with the main brand operating larger aircraft on longer routes, while customers could travel to smaller markets on the regional jets and turboprops, all under the same ticket and frequent flyer program. This was a winning formula that other legacy airlines would follow in the coming years. In fact, United wasn't even the first airline to operate under this type of model. That honor goes to Mesa Airlines, who began flying as a regional partner of United back in 1982. Just 3 years after the airline was founded, when United Express launched in Mesa was already flying the British Aerospace 146 between Denver and Colorado Springs, as well as a few other routes. Following closely behind Mesa was SkyWest Airlines, who started flying in 1983. By 1985, they were flying the Embraer 110 and 120 between smaller cities in Utah and Idaho into the United hub at Denver. Both of these airlines were based out of the western part of the United States, but they would soon be joined by an airline out of the Midwest. Air Wisconsin began flying as a United Express carrier in 1986, offering service from smaller cities into Chicago. In addition to the 3 regional partners I've already mentioned, United Express also operated flights directly with some of our own equipment, primarily the aforementioned British Aerospace 146. So unlike the regional brands of today, which are essentially just another brand of the main airline, United Express was truly an independent brand operated by several different companies. But despite being operated by multiple different airlines, United Express did have some commonality with its fleet. Most obvious was the aircraft types used. As I mentioned earlier, the British Aerospace 146 and the Bombardier CRJ were 2 popular choices. but the backbone of the system was made up of turboprops like the Beechcraft 19 and the Embraer 110 and 120. These types of aircraft were perfect for the shorter, lower traffic routes that made up the majority of the United Express network. Speaking of the network, it consisted of smaller cities surrounding United's mainline hubs, meaning most flights were less than 400 miles. This allowed for high frequencies on the routes, which were often only served once or twice per day by the mainline jets. For example, there were 11 daily flights between Denver and Colorado Springs, but only 2 daily flights between Denver and Dallas. Of course, the further you got away from the hub, the less frequent the service became. But for smaller communities, having any service at all was a good thing. As the 1980s came to a close, the United Express network was looking very promising. Over 100 non-stop destinations were being served by over 450 daily departures. More markets were being added each year, and customers were responding well to the convenient connections through the mainline hubs. But not everything was going perfectly behind the scenes. By the early 1990s, several of the United Express carriers were reporting poor financial results and losses, while the brand was gaining popularity and adding new destinations. The cost of doing business was hurting the bottom line. So, Combatis United and their regional partners began to consolidate some of the aircraft like the Beechcraft 1900 into larger aircraft like the Embraer 120. This meant some routes had to be cut, but overall the quality of the system improved. In addition to this, another change took place in 1994, when the original United Express, Inc. was dissolved and each of the individual carriers became wholly owned subsidiaries of UAL, the parent company of United Airlines. This meant that although the United Express brand still existed, the individual airlines were now tighter under the control of United. This shift gave United more control over their regional operations, but it also gave customers more consistency in terms of schedules and fares. By the end of the decade, the regional system was stronger than ever before. In fact, it was so strong that it served as a blueprint for other legacy airlines looking to build out their own regional systems. But this success didn't last forever. In 1996, United Express underwent yet another change. The brand was still strong and had become synonymous with the regional jet and turboprop operations of United. But behind the scenes, the individual airlines needed a fresh start. The old United Express, Inc. was dissolved, and each of the regionals were rebranded to simply United. This meant the end of the official United Express brand. But the regional operations continued on as just United Airlines. This allowed each of the former United Express carriers to market themselves individually, while still being associated with the strength of the United brand. So what's happened to the United Express brand? Well, it lived on in name only for a couple more years until the early 2000s, when the various United regional subsidiaries began to adopt the newer United Express brand. But that's a story for another video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you next time.